Okay, welcome into the Teal Shirt Report podcast, episode 74. The New Year Polar Plunge is taking place at Jacksonville Beach, Florida, in Duval County. Jacksonville Beach is still part of Duval County. New Year Polar Plunge, 50 degrees outside, which means the water is going to be cold. I'm not jumping in there, but there's a line of them that are down at Jacksonville Beach, Florida. Jaguars coming off a win. Mm. Finally heard from the coffee boy. I wished him happy New Year, and he sent me a message back. Maybe he's coming out of hibernation from the holidays. Uh, some of the old radio days during the holidays or bad weather. Hey, or such and such schools closed. Man, that was happening frequently back in the day. We're talking about in the Southeast, too. We're talking about Alabama, Georgia, Florida, North Florida specifically. And people in the Southeast aren't really used to really cold weather. It's not cold this morning, but it's quite cool, 50 degrees. Skies have cleared out, high around 65 for the day. This is January the 1st, New Year's Day. Now, Happy New Year. Happy New Year 2025. Now, this is episode show number 74. And what I've gotten in a habit of doing the last couple of years is we normally continue the season into almost mid-January. And that's kind of how we've done it the last couple of years. About mid-January, about the time we started, is kind of our anniversary of the podcast going back 5 years ago. Well, we're going to be starting our sixth season in a couple of weeks in basically mid-January. 50 degrees currently in Jacksonville. The Icemen, the Jacksonville entry into professional ice hockey, eighth season, number 8. 8th season of the Jacksonville Icemen. They're on a 4-game winning streak. They're like 18-9-2 now. Congratulations to Bob Arablo and the management, the ownership, and all the coaches and players, of course. The Icemen have put another really competitive and good team, winning team on the ice. Jacksonville Icemen, 18-9-2 in the East Coast Hockey League. Jaguars win a game. They swept the Titans. The only problem is that's half the games they've won. They're 4-12. 16 games into the season. The season is basically over with. There's a lot of stuff on downtown Jacksonville. Got some new owners coming in for an old building downtown. I'm kind of looking at some of the headlines. 50 degrees currently in Jacksonville, Florida. Go to our website. We got pictures on the website. We've been snapping some new pictures lately, so there'll be new pictures going up on the website soon. BigJReport.com. Is that guy's name LaGeorge? He had a Sonic t-shirt on, but I don't think that was LaGeorge. There was a guy named LaGeorge years ago that ran a Sonic up in Alabama, I believe. I want to thank our sponsors, Saucer Realty and Capital. The MadMaxMix.weebly.com. Now, these folks like Mad Max, and they're good people. They run internet radio shows, and they took a little siesta during the holidays. Got coffee brewing. Thank you, coffee boy. He will fly in here on a broomstick and get me some coffee sometimes, even though then he goes back to incognito, I think. Coffee is pretty good. We might have to grab another cup of coffee, which might mean I might have to get up and walk over to the coffee pot sometime during this particular podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Congratulations to Mike Burrish. He's probably my favorite weatherman in town, and there's a lot of good ones. Mike, quite active in the community. I saw him walking the dog a minute ago. But whenever there's been storms, I always like watching him. He tells you where to go. If you're in an apartment or in a home, he'll tell you what floor to go to, what area to go to. And I think Mike Burrish creates a very good comfort level as, if not one of the best meteorologists in the Southeast, maybe the best. And I think he was just voted as the National Weatherman of the Year. So congratulations to Mike Burrish. I didn't think we'd talk about Mike Burrish on this podcast, but went ahead and did so. I like his work. He's a trustworthy meteorologist, if there is such a thing. And there's a few good ones. If you didn't know it, David Letterman. You remember David Letterman, who did the late night entertainment talk show for years? I think he started out as a weatherman up in, where was it, Indiana or somewhere. So, and we do weather on our website. We do our rendition of the weather at bigjreport.com. The weather report always updated at bigjreport.com daily, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Go to bigjreport.com. I'm Scott with bigjreport.com, and this is the Teal Shirt Report podcast on video, and we're on audio as well. We put episode show number 73 up on the website today, bigjreport.com, and now we're moving into episode show number 74. Jaguars coming off a 20-13 win over the Tennessee Titans at home. Mac Jones may be his best game. I mean, he had a couple of touchdown passes in the game. Parker Washington, the national color man or analyst, if you will, said, "Oh, I think they're going to take that one away." Oh man, I couldn't believe that. The guy had 2 feet in. He was also being kind of shoved out of bounds by the defender, and I didn't like that guy at all. Man, that was just some kind of pure bias or something. I don't know. It's hard to explain it. Jacksonville Icemen are hot, 4 wins in a row. They're 18-9-2 on the season. We'll take a look at the NFL standings because we've actually promised to check the NFL standings the last 2 or 3 episodes, but now more has happened. I guess since the last time we talked to you, there was a Monday night game. And sadly, I did not win that one on the pool because I picked San Francisco, and San Francisco got to an amazing and good start, and they ended up losing the game. Detroit kept scoring points, and I picked San Francisco, but I was getting 3. We were getting 3.5 points as well in the football pool. We did lose that game. However, we still got 10 right. Still got 10 right. 6 against the spread is not bad. 11-5 would have been better, but we were 10-6. Overall, we got a winning record on the season. I think we're still maybe in the running for the overall, like season championship in the football pool, which has featured some college games, but basically all the NFL college games thrown in. Let me see if I can find that score from the other night. I'm just amazed. Detroit, they've got a gauntlet of offense, and I am really absolutely amazed that Detroit is Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator. He's being rumored to go everywhere. He could be the next coach of the Chicago Bears, next coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Did the Dallas Cowboys finally get mad enough to fire McCarthy? Anything can happen. There may be more openings than you think. And Black Monday is coming up. There's no Monday night football game the last week of the year. So there'll be a Black Monday where people like Balky get fired, or maybe Balky retires. I think Shad Khan will probably give him a chance to retire, finish the season, and retire. I kind of hate this method of, and I thought it was a good idea with Jim Harbaugh and even perhaps with Urban Meyer, but I don't like this idea of a coach that's never been a head coach. Obviously, Urban Meyer had been a head coach in college. Jim Harbaugh has been a head coach in the NFL and college. Jim Harbaugh is having a great year with the LA Chargers, by the way. They keep rolling along. They beat the Patriots. LA Chargers beat the Patriots 40-7. Let me pull up that Monday night game. Detroit Lions. And that surprised me. I really thought Detroit would be looking ahead to the Minnesota game because that's a huge game. It's much huger than the San Francisco game. Let me see if I could find the score. Detroit and San Francisco. That was a Monday night game in which Detroit won and they covered the spread. And then San Francisco scored a touchdown at the end, so it got close. Detroit Lions 40, San Francisco 49ers 34. That was a Monday night game back on December the 30th of 2024 at Levi Stadium. That's where the San Francisco 49ers play their home games, and that is in beautiful Santa Clara. I would never live in Santa Clara, but maybe you would. I'm not a California guy. Some are, some aren't. I could. Well, we're going to move on here. Detroit 40, San Francisco 34. That was the Monday night game. Detroit Lions offense is for real. And that's why Ben Johnson, isn't that his name, Ben Johnson? He's the offensive coordinator with the Detroit Lions. He's going to be a head coach somewhere. Could be Chicago. Could be some other places. Will Dallas fire their coach? Mark Brunell is his quarterback coach in Detroit. When Ben Johnson leaves, does Mark Brunell stay in Detroit, or does he perhaps follow Ben Johnson? That'd be interesting. I think the Jaguars still need to hire a GM before they hire a coach that's never been a head coach in the NFL before. Let's get a GM in there. The new GM wants to hire Ben Johnson. Let's go all out and get Ben Johnson. Or, the GM's going to want to hire his guy. But you need a GM, a competent, let's use that word, a competent GM that has a successful track record, maybe a top 5 to top 15 GM that is a current GM in the NFL. And prime away from that team. I think there's a window of opportunity. You prime away from the team. And you have to give this GM, if he's a current GM, he's been successful, he's a top half of the league GM, you got to throw money is no object to offer out there. And then you're going to have to pay a good bit of money for a head coach. Then the head coach will fill in the assistant coaching positions, which if Ben Johnson somehow, some way came to Jacksonville from Detroit as the offensive coordinator to become the head coach in Jacksonville, Mark Brunell, could that be an avenue for Mark Brunell to come to Jacksonville and maybe get promoted to be an offensive coordinator? He's quarterback coach with the Detroit Lions right now. Let's take a look at, they're putting up points. It's a pinball game. Detroit put up 40 points against the San Francisco 49ers on the road, and Detroit has people hurt. And Detroit, what are they, 14-2? I kept waiting for Detroit to lose another game or two, and maybe be 12-4 at this point, but they're not. They're 14-2. Hats off to Detroit. Hats off to head coach Dan Campbell, who's going to have an offensive coordinator to replace. Could he hire from within? I think Mark Brunell, the quarterback coach with Detroit, I think he might be up for promotion, whether it's in Detroit or he comes with Ben Johnson or goes with Ben Johnson wherever Ben Johnson becomes a head coach. Let's pull up the standings. JC, I like the AFC East standings. He's a diehard Buffalo Bills fan, even though the Jacksonville Jaguars are our executive producer's second favorite team in the AFC. Buffalo Bills are 13-3. Miami still has a thumbnail's chance of making the playoffs. They're 8-8 in second place. Jets are done. They're 4-12, same as the Jaguars. New England Patriots 3-13. Heck, they're worse than the Jaguars, but let's take a look. So the AFC South, the AFC East, there's a lot of divisions in the NFL, but we've been promising to check the standings for you, and that's what we're doing now. Buffalo Bills 13-3, Miami Dolphins 8-8, New York Jets 4-12, New England Patriots 3-13. So the Buffalo Bills have clinched their division at 13-3. The Miami Dolphins, I think, still have an outside shot at a wild card. They're 8-8. they obviously need to win their last game. Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers have been really battling for the AFC North title. Both these teams will be in the playoffs. The Ravens are 11-5. Looks like they're going to be the division champions. Pittsburgh Steelers are 10-6. Cincinnati Bengals 8-8. Maybe they've got a shot at a wild card if they win the last game. Cleveland way out of it at 3-13. They were a much better team when they beat the Jaguars very early in the season. Houston Texans are 9-7. I heard a rumor. I don't know how true it is. It's probably a very, very low percentage, but Indianapolis at 7-9. If they win their last game and go 8-9, and they're playing the Jaguars in their last game, they have just a way outside shot of making the playoffs. A lot of things will have to happen, but the Colts are 7-9, probably having a better season than they thought they would. Jacksonville Jaguars are 4-12. The Jaguars basically have third place sewed up. Jacksonville Jaguars are 4-12. Tennessee Titans 3-13. AFC West, the Chiefs are definitely, again, they've won back-to-back Super Bowls. It's a dynasty under Andy Reid. Could this be Andy Reid's last year? He's a Hall of Fame coach. He's just not in the Hall of Fame because he's still coaching. Kansas City Chiefs 15-1. LA Chargers with Jim Harbaugh way back, 5 games back, but a great season for the LA Chargers at 10-6. They will be a high wild card. Denver Broncos are 9-7. Denver obviously still looks like they've got a heartbeat of a shot. I think they could sew up a wild card if they win their last game. The Denver Broncos, Sean Payton, man, this team has gradually gotten better and better in the 3 years Sean Payton's been the head coach with Denver. Las Vegas Raiders are 4-12. They're out of it. Raiders beat the Jaguars, though, right? That was in Vegas here about 2 weeks ago. Las Vegas Raiders are 4-12. Going over to the NFC, Philadelphia Eagles 13-3. They've won the division, but the Washington Commanders, a second-place team, will make a high wild card at 11-5. Detroit Lions are an incredible 14-2. Minnesota's 14-2. And Detroit and Minnesota will have an NFC North showdown in Week 17. The Detroit Lions are 14-2. Minnesota Vikings are 14-2. Green Bay Packers will be a high wild card at 11-5. Bears are way out of it at 4-12. They've already fired their coach as of almost a month ago, I believe. Eberflus was fired. Could that be where he lands, or does he end in Jacksonville or somewhere else? Looking at the NFC South, Tampa Bay Buccaneers looks like they're going to win the division. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 9-7. Atlanta Falcons are 8-8. New Orleans Saints, terrible year. New York Joe, Saints fan, a big New Orleans Saints fan. New York Joe told me, I said, what's wrong with the Saints defense? He said, they can't tackle. Well, that makes sense. That's why they're losing. They're 5-11. Carolina Panthers are 4-12. And Carolina is really, you have to say, they are an improved team over last year. They were the worst team in the league last year. This year, it's starting to improve. Their quarterback, finally, their rookie quarterback, who is now in his second year, is starting to come around at 4-12. That's, I believe, Bryce Young, right? And he was, compared to the other rookie quarterbacks when he came to the league. Bryce Young is an American football quarterback, professional football quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. Played for the Alabama Crimson Tide in college, and he's starting to play better. Some of these rookie quarterbacks, sometimes they play great right away, like the rookie at Washington. He's had a great year. Washington, the Redskins, the Commanders will be in the playoffs with a rookie quarterback. And the rookies of the year, as far as in the NFC, it's got to be the Washington quarterback, most likely, right? As far as offensive guys, because Washington is in the NFC and the AFC. Who's the rookie of the year? Brian Thomas Jr. possibly, or is it Brock Bowers, the Raiders tight end? Let me tell you something about Brock Bowers. And again, I'll talk about both these guys. Brock Bowers, I saw him catch a ball off his shoelaces. This guy is agile and he can catch the ball and he's quick. I don't know how fast Brock Bowers is, but he's quick. He's football quick and has some good football speed. Brian Thomas Jr. is probably faster than Brock Bowers, but as far as the quickness goes, Bowers may be as quick on short distances. I've seen separation with number one. He's our number one wide receiver now, Brian Thomas Jr. The Jaguars have not had a number one wide receiver in a long time. Did we finish the standings? No. I head in other directions, and I need to finish what I'm doing here. Tampa Bay Buccaneers 9-7, Atlanta Falcons 8-8, New Orleans Saints 5-11, Carolina Panthers 4-12 in the NFC South. I was saying that Carolina's 4-12, but they're really better this year than last year. NFC Western Division, Ray Kennedy's Los Angeles Rams. That's a chum I went to high school with. He's a big Rams fan, big Notre Dame fan. Boy, Notre Dame has a big one with Georgia coming up in the college football playoff. The college football playoff down to 8 teams, I believe now. And the winners this weekend will move into the semifinals or the Final Four, if you will, in college football. The Los Angeles Rams 10-6. They've won that division. Seattle Seahawks at 9-7 should make a wild card. Arizona's 7-9. I don't think they have much of a shot, but I'm sure they have a percentage chance. San Francisco 49ers, they had some injury problems. Brock Purdy was out for 2-3 weeks or more. He's back. They gave Detroit everything they wanted, and I was pulling for San Francisco because I picked them in the pool, and they came close. They were winning early in the game. But San Francisco, this is just not their year. Injuries and issues, and they lost some players to free agency, and Balky signed some free agents, including Eric Armstead from San Francisco. And Eric Armstead, I think he's a decent player, and he's one of the men of the year. He's the man of the year representative with the Jaguars, and that's great stuff in the community. But I just don't think he's had a good year, and I hope he'll have a better year next year because he's obviously on a multi-year deal with the Jaguars. Unless the new GM says, no, we're going to go a different direction. They can get out of most of those deals. Most of those free agent deals are probably essentially and realistically 2-year deals, even though he signed for 3. He signed for 4 years. Polar plunge at Jacksonville Beach, Florida. Boy, the water looks nice, but it's kind of cool out there. It's 50 degrees in Jacksonville, Florida on New Year's Day, early in the morning here on January the 1st of 2025. Again, the 49ers find themselves in last place in the NFC West at 6-10. Arizona 7-9. Seattle Seahawks 9-7. The Seattle Seahawks have looked really great at times. They blew out Atlanta a few weeks ago. I picked them in the pool that week. But then Seattle will have a down game. They're 9-7. They got a winning record. And they look like they're going to be, one of the wild cards, obviously, in the NFC. LA Rams win the division at 10-6. Les Snead, the general manager of the NFC Western Division champion Los Angeles Rams. Les Snead would be my number one choice. If the Jaguars want to find a guy that's been successful, he's won a Super Bowl. He actually started out in his early days in the NFL as a scout with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that was well before Shad Khan ever owned the team, back in the early days, if you will. So we've talked NFL standings. Not going to do my picks right now. I mean, today's only Tuesday? Or is it Wednesday? These holidays throw me off, right? It's actually Wednesday, January the 1st of 2025. I've still got to put together kind of a final, because we haven't done it every week, but we kind of gradually caught up. We're going to have to do a bigjreport.com SEC power rankings in football. Florida moved up with some wins late in the year over LSU, Ole Miss, and beat Florida State and won the bowl game in the Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa over Tulane 33-8. We've talked NFL standings. We will talk on the next podcast. I know we're going to get back into more of the college football playoffs. Notre Dame and Georgia will be a very good playoff game. If you win this one, if Georgia wins, or if Notre Dame wins, they're moving into the Final Four of college football. I mean, there's some Boise State is still alive, right? I can pull up some of the college bowl scores. We probably should do that really quickly. There's been some good bowl games, and I may have missed one along the lines. Past episodes, check us out. Subscribe to our channel. You won't miss any content because it's kind of hard on one individual episode to get everything in. But you can go to previous episodes, past episodes, and you can, really, find what's going on. I'm going to take a look at the bowl game. Let's pull up some here. I want to thank our sponsors, Social Realty and Capital. The sponsors are on our ticker, Social Realty and Capital. For your real estate needs in North Florida, whether it's home, residential, business, or commercial real estate, you'll find a link for Social Realty and Capital near 24/7 North Florida weather reports on our homepage at bigjreport.com. Also on our ticker, I want to thank Max and the Mad Max Mix.weebly.com. Max does a Wednesday evening request show, the Mad Max Mix.weebly.com, with Mad Max's Mix, his mix of songs and requests on the Mad Max Mix.weebly.com. Thursday nights, first week in January, first few days of January, man, got news shows for Mad Max in the new year 2025 on Wednesday evenings, and JC from the pub on Thursday nights at LakeUfallahits.com. Great internet radio where it's absolutely all good. Let's take a look. Fresh off a win in the SEC Championship, Georgia 11-2, the number 2 seed, with Mountain West champion Boise State 12-1. Big 12 champion Arizona State 11-2. Clemson's already been knocked out. They were beaten by Texas. Let me see if I can pull some scores up. Check some bowl games. Let's see. Here we go. Got the Bahamas Bowl coming up on January the Buffalo versus Liberty. That's where Hugh Freeze used to be the head coach. Now he's at Hugh Freeze is at Auburn now. The honeymoon's probably over at Auburn. No pun intended. Second year for Hugh Freeze. He's a good coach. I think they'll be better in his third year. They showed glimpses of being better in 2024. Duke's Mayo Bowl. I've had some of the Duke's mayonnaise. I have, and it's good. But I put it on sandwiches, not in my coffee like Will Levis. By the way, Will Levis got benched by the Tennessee Titans here a few days ago. The Duke's Mayo Bowl, January 3rd, up in Charlotte, Minnesota at Virginia Tech. Gator Bowl, and that's near my heart because I've been to many Gator Bowls over the years. January 2nd, Gator Bowl right here in Jacksonville, Florida. The Duke Blue Devils, JC's Duke Blue Devils versus Ole Miss, coached by Lane Kiffin. That's here in Jacksonville, Florida. Kickoff time, the ones that own college football, the four-letter network, says they will kick that one off at 7:30 in the evening. In recent years, this has been a day game at the Gator Bowl. This one's a nighttime, primetime game. January the 2nd, well, that's coming up tomorrow. So that's actually this Thursday, January the 2nd, the Gator Bowl right here in Jacksonville, Florida, 7:30 p.m. Duke and Ole Miss. There was a game on New Year's Eve. LSU beat Baylor. I probably, if I didn't do picks on bowl games this year, but I probably would have picked Baylor because LSU seemed to be getting into kind of disarray, but bring in the SEC factor. A lot of teams from the Southeastern Conference in bowl games. LSU 44, Baylor 31 on December the 31st. I want to call this the Blue Bonnet Bowl, which is not around anymore. The Gators played in the Blue Bonnet Bowl back when Mr. Hugo was the quarterback back, I guess, the early 80s. The Blue Bonnet Bowl was around for years. This bowl is called the Texas Bowl. It is in Houston. LSU 44, Baylor 31, the final score on December 31st. Citrus Bowl, you know, Coach Steve Spurrier used to always say you can't spell Citrus Bowl without UT. That was a classic line. They had the Citrus Bowl December 31st, which would have been yesterday, right? December 31st, Citrus Bowl in Orlando. Illinois, the Illini, with a 21-17 win over South Carolina. South Carolina had a great year. They were 9-3 in the regular season. There were like 4 different teams in the SEC, all compiling 9-3 records. They all missed the playoffs, but they had really, really good seasons. Alabama was 9-3, South Carolina 9-3, Ole Miss 9-3, right? Who else was 9-3 in that group? Ole Miss, Alabama. Let's see, LSU. I don't believe they were 9-3. No, it was South Carolina was 9-3, Alabama, Ole Miss. There's one other one that kind of escapes my memory bank. Well, probably have to pull up the SEC standings on this podcast or the next one, because we will have to do the BigJReport.com SEC power rankings in the next couple of days. Good win, probably creep them up in the power rankings a little bit, creep them up. LSU 44, Baylor 31. December 31st, Citrus Bowl in Orlando. They play multiple bowl games around Orlando and Tampa, it seems like. Citrus Bowl in Orlando, Illinois 21, South Carolina 17. That's a good bowl, too. South Carolina just with a 4-point loss. They had a very, very good year. South Carolina finishes 9-4, and I think they had like a 6-game winning streak prior to the bowl game. Also on December the 31st, Louisville beat the Washington Huskies. Jed Fish, the coach of the Washington Huskies, they got nipped by Louisville 35. The Washington Huskies 34 in the Sun Bowl on December the 31st in El Paso, Texas. I've always liked the Sun Bowl. Real-Quest. How about this one? There must have been some Alabama guys taking the bowl game off, maybe. Michigan beat Bama. Alabama was the other team that was 9-3, right? You had Alabama 9-3, Ole Miss 9-3, South Carolina 9-3. Michigan beat Alabama. Michigan got hot toward the end of the year. I mean, they beat Ohio State in a huge upset in a low-scoring game. This one was low-scoring, too. Michigan 19 and Alabama 13 in the Real-Quest Bowl in Tampa on December the 31st. December the 30th. Now, Missouri is the shady team, but this is the think of that. Missouri 9-3. Missouri beat Iowa. Missouri Tigers 27, Iowa 24 in the Music City Bowl on December the 30th. Bowl on the 28th. How about the Army Cadets? Man, I'm going to tell you, the service academy schools always come to play in the bowl games. Army 27 and Louisiana Tech 6 in the Independence Bowl. I think Deion Sanders got out coached in the Alamo Bowl in San Antonio. BYU 36, Colorado 14. BYU 36, Colorado 14 back on December the 28th. So we gave you more of the bowl games than I thought we would. Those are basically just the bowl games, not the playoff bowl games, but the bowl games. Let me see. Now, I wanted to talk about the playoffs real quick, college football playoffs, as time allows here. Okay. Penn State. Wow. Penn State knocked off Boise State. Okay. And this was one of the big playoff games. So Penn State is actually now moved in the quarterfinals. That'll be one of the final 4 teams. Penn State 31, Boise State 14. On January the 1st in the Peach Bowl, Arizona State plays in a playoff game versus Oregon, plays Ohio State in the Granny of the Rose. January the 1st, which is today, Oregon, number 1 ranked, plays Ohio State, ranked 8th, moves to college football's Final Four in the semifinal games. And the Georgia Notre Dame game, big primetime game at 8:45 p.m. on ESPN later tonight. Georgia ranked number 2 in the nation. Notre Dame ranked 7th, and this may be one of Notre Dame's better teams that they've had in the last few years. Georgia plays Notre Dame 8:45 p.m., and that's in the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. There was a little bit of terrorism. Well, I say a little bit of terrorism. They're calling it terrorism. Some shots in a vehicle mowed some people over. Some people died in New Orleans, and they're calling it terrorism. I tell you, reap what you sow sometimes, because there's a lot more people that have snuck across the border in the last several months. I don't want to go political, but you're letting them in and you don't know who they are, and you can't keep account of who they are or where they are. Georgia plays Notre Dame in New Orleans. That game is tonight at 8:45 p.m. I'm sure security will be at a maximum for that game. Penn State has punched their ticket to college football's Final Four. Penn State will play a team to be announced in the Orange Bowl, the Miami Gardens, Florida area Orange Bowl, January the 9th. The other semifinal will be the Cotton Bowl on January the 10th. And then the winners from the Final Four move to the college football championship game, national championship game this year will be in Atlanta on January the 20th at 7:30 p.m. Can you believe the college football season, JC, is lasting all the way to January the 20th? And I think we're out of time here. We're running out of time. I want to thank our sponsors, Sauce Realty and Capital, madmaxmix.weebly.com. Want to thank Lake Uvalde Hits and JC's Live from the Pub Show, which is heard each Thursday night. Want to thank our producers, our executive producer, JC. Thank you for the Happy New Year's wish, JC. Happy New Year to everyone watching and listening to our podcast, the Teal Shirt Report podcast. This is episode show number 74, by the way. So again, a special thank you to our executive producer, JC, another producer, Alex Nunnery, and our contributor and correspondent, John Gaylor, who absolutely won the Teal Shirt Report Podcast Fantasy Football League. John Gaylor beat yours truly, your host, in the championship game. We had a little side wager, and we will be sending that out to you very soon, Mr. Gaylor. That's going to do it for the Teal Shirt Report Podcast. This has been show number 74, episode show number 74 of the Teal Shirt Report Podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Scott, and I'm out. You guys have a great day. Thank you for watching. Go Ice.